What's up, Roy?
Hey, you all right?
What's up, man? You good?
Hey, man, one day at a time.
I hear you, boy. I see that hair, boy. I see that hair.
I was gonna sponge it today, and I say, it might be too much for this, so I'll sponge it later.
Boy. That's back 1994, boy.
Hey,
I still know how to give fades. If you...
Hey, I hadn't been to barbershop in 3 months, and so this is the most hair I've had in my head in 25, almost 30 years, 35 years.
Right on.
Man, long time. That's back to the West Tower stuff, dog.
Okay, Carol, let's get going.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Carol Donovan. I am your Dallas County Democratic Party Chair. We have a great program for you involving multiple constables and also moderated by Sheriff Lupe Valdez. I have the honor of introducing Sheriff Valdez, though many of you have heard her biography. She is the daughter of migrant workers. She knows how to fight because she was the youngest of 10 children. She shocked Dallas County in 2004 when she became one of the first Democrats to win a countywide office. Then if they thought that was something, she went on and held 4 terms as sheriff of Dallas County. She was the first Latino sheriff in the nation. And in addition to that, she was one of few LGBT people who were even holding office in the nation. We know her as a candidate, we know her as a sheriff, and to know her is to love her. I introduce to you Sheriff Lupe Valdez.
Thank you very much, Carol, and welcome to all of you viewing us right now. This is extremely timely since constables are very much a part of our law enforcement, and we want to hear from every one of them to let us know what's going on in their community and to give us an update on what they're doing. We're going to start by letting them introduce themselves and giving you a little bit of information about themselves. We're going to start with Constable Wright. Edward, since you're up in my gallery and you're the first one I can see, so Constable Wright, will you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your job, as each one of them will continue to add on what you've started.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you guys for allowing me to be here. I'm the constable in Precinct 4, and Precinct 4 consists of Duncanville, DeSoto, City Hill, Glen Heights, Irving, Grand Prairie, and bits of Ovilla. And of course, I was elected in 2019. I replaced Roy, and I was elected in 2019. And I just tried to piggyback on a lot of stuff that they were doing when I started. So when I got elected, the first thing I decided to do was just jump in and start doing a lot of stuff for the community. Going to a bunch of schools, volunteering at schools, volunteering at what we don't call a nursing home, volunteering at senior citizen centers. So what I've done lately now, I'm working with homeless shelters now. So what I think my job is to go out there and do stuff for the community. I think giving back to the community is paramount, and that's what I'm trying to do. I've volunteered. I donated a lot of my time here recently. When the riots were going on, we were downtown helping out and doing stuff down there. And it's a lot of stuff going on right now, and I'm just trying to make sure that I get out there in the community and do as much as I can to be a positive part of our community. One of the things that I take a lot of pride in is donating a lot of time to kids in our community. So I donate a whole lot of time to my mentoring program and doing stuff to help our older citizens also. So I'm enjoying it. I'm learning from a lot of people. I worked for you guys with the Sheriff Department. I worked there for 30 years before I retired. And then once I retired, I had to come over here to the Constable's office. So it's a lot for me to learn since I've only dealt with this Constable office, been a constable for a year and a half now. So I'm still learning a lot, still asking a lot of questions, still talking to a lot of people, and they're still teaching me a lot of things, but I'm enjoying it and having a great time.
Thank you, Constable Wright, and we all continue to learn.
Yes.
Constable Orozco?
Yes. So thank you for having me. My name is Michael Orozco, or what I like to constantly refer to myself, Michael Orozco, however you like to pronounce it. But I'm the constable of Precinct 5. And Precinct 5, I call it the eclectic precinct because we got like a really neat variety of neighborhoods. That's probably 99% of my precinct is City of Dallas. And the only other city that I have in Precinct 5 is Copper Hill. But we cover the M Streets, Lower Greenville, Lakewood, Forest Hills, Little Forest Hills, Butner Terrace. Then we corridor through the Cedar Springs, Oaklawn area. Then we open up to Northwest Dallas area, like the Webb Chapel, Lombardi area. Then coming back down south, we have the Medical District, the Left Field area, Arlington Park, Katy Polk Center area, the Design District. We practically have all of West Dallas, and then we have all of West Oak Cliff. So I actually started my career here in this building that I represent, which is very special to me. I started my career as a deputy constable in 1997. I've worked each and every division of the constable's office. I've worked civil, I've worked warrants, writ enforcement, truancy, traffic, and mental health illness warrants as well. But what I enjoy, I have a great passion about the constable's office because there are so many services out there that the people don't know that the constables do. And what I love to do, I love to engage with homeowners associations, any and all local clubs, PTA groups, and I like to empower and enlighten them about the services that we do. For example, a lot of people don't know that we do mental health illness warrants. What are those? People don't know that they can go to their local JP court, and if they have a loved one, friend, relative, or whatever they suspect that has some chemical dependency, mental health or alcohol addiction problems, they can go to their JP court and file for the mental health illness warrant. And we're the ones that go out there and actually take them to Parkland to have them observed for usually 48 to 72 hours. Sometimes these people just need their meds. We do, unfortunately, we're the ones that do all the evictions. And especially during COVID, I engaged with the Mexican consulate. We did an interview telling people what their rights are going to be. And if their rights were violated, what remedies they could do. For example, if a landlord during COVID right now, with the restrictions are still in place, does a lockout, which can be considered an illegal lockout, an illegal eviction, they can go to the local JP court and file for what's called a writ of reentry. And if the judge authorizes this order, we, the constables, go out there and make a demand to the landlord, telling them they need to let this tenant back in and let them live. But I know we got more time, and there's so much more we can talk about that the constable's office does, but I'll say that for later in the town hall.
Thank you. Thank you, Constable. We're going to go to Constable Gibson. Constable Gibson, will you introduce yourself and continue on with the task of the constables?
Yes, ma'am. Hello to Sheriff Valdez and everyone that's viewing this town hall. So I'm Constable Bill Gibson. I'm the constable of Precinct 2 of Dallas County, which covers Garland, Mesquite, Rowlett, Saxey, Centerville, East Dallas, and a portion of Ball Springs. I split with Constable Gulley. And so I've been with Dallas County about 15 years now. Started with the Sheriff's Department. Went from the Sheriff's Department in Dallas County to the Dallas County DA's office as an investigator. And now I'm the constable of Precinct 2. I've also been serving in the Army Reserves for the last 19 years. So I'll be getting ready to finish my 20 years next year. And so just as well as all the other constables that have spoken, we are very engaged with the community. We work hand in hand with, do a lot of things with Garland PD as well as Mesquite PD. We also go out serving the mental illness warrants. We get a lot of mental illness warrants right there in Garland because of the mental health facility that they have in Garland. And we also deal with have working relationships with other counties, surrounding counties, serving citations and things that they have, as well as the DA's office here in Dallas County. And so one thing we did start in our constable's office, we started what we call an intrusion program. Is with Garland ISD, where we go inside, we send a deputy inside the schools and see if the faculty and staff can recognize the individual or even direct them to the office. Just try to help them with their security side to eliminate threats up on the school. And so we do a lot. We go out to the schools on the first day of school. We getting involved with the local homeless shelter there in Garland, feeding them through the holidays. And so we just try to make sure that we stay an integral part to the community and let them know, as well as the local PD departments, that we are there to assist and just stay heavily engaged with the community.
Thank you, Constable. Did Constable Gulley show up yet? If not, I'd like to let former Constable Williams go ahead and sum up everything that's been brought in, since he's probably the most experienced there. So we're going to let former Constable Roy Williams sum up a lot of what the other constables have started.
So good afternoon. For those that don't have the luxury of knowing me, and for those I haven't, I had the luxury of meeting. I am Roy Williams Jr., the former constable of Precinct 4, which is where Constable Wright is currently. I served 2 terms in Precinct 4 from 2011 to 2018. During that time period, just a little bit about me. And again, to sum up everything, it's virtually impossible. So I definitely want to go back and repeat that. But just a little bit about me. My 2-minute introduction. Again, former elected official. I was the 2015 elected official of the year, Dallas County Democratic Party elected official of the year. I have a master's in organizational leadership and an undergrad. My undergrad is in criminal justice. Graduated summa cum laude, was recognized as an academic scholar. In addition to that, I have my Master Peace Officer license. I'm a TCOL instructor. My areas of specialties are ethics and law enforcement and cultural diversity. Well, I'm sorry, law enforcement ethics and cultural diversity and law enforcement. I've been a TCOL instructor for TCOL. For those that don't know what TCOL is, an acronym for Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. So I've been a TCOL instructor, facilitator now for well over 25 years. So what does that have to do with me today? I retired from Dallas County last November, November 2019, after 29 years, 7 months, almost 30 years. And so what I'm currently doing, obviously, you can see by my look, I haven't been to the barbershop in three months. I'm practicing social distancing and flattening the curve. But I am taking the opportunity to launch the second half of my career. And I'm doing some consulting work. I participate in a number of other town halls, another number of other Zoom meetings and things of that nature, especially in light of the current situation that the situation we're currently facing. And so it's my opportunity to continue to be involved. It's great to be a part of this panel. I was actually surprised to get the text message a couple of weeks ago to ask me to participate, and I didn't hesitate. And so, Sheriff Valdez, it's good to see you. It's good to see the county chair. It's good to see the current elected officials. And again, I'm not going to repeat what everyone else said because you heard what the officers do, but it's great to be here, and I'm looking forward to diving in and seeing how we can unpack this thing.
Thank you. Thank you, former Constable Williams. We discussed writs, we discussed eviction, we discussed mental health. Is there anything else in the constables? Of course, there's always other, but is there other things that you want to touch on before we go on to the next issue? Welcome, Constable Gulley. Let's go ahead and give her an opportunity. We were introducing ourselves, and I was asking them to add on more as to what your duties are, so you probably haven't heard what the other ones have said, but we will give you the opportunity to tell us about your district and yourself.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We hear you great.
Okay, hello, how's everyone doing? I'm Constable Gulley, Tracey Gulley. I'm the constable for Precinct 1, and my area is a pretty large area. I cover parts of Combine, Pleasant Grove, Balch Springs, Seagoville, downtown, South Dallas, the southern sector of Oak Cliff, Lancaster, Wilmer, and all the way, let me see, west to Mountain Creek Parkway. So I have pretty much the largest area in Dallas County. I've been with the constable's office for 23 years now. Started off as a reserve officer at the same precinct. After that, I was promoted to sergeant in the warrant department, later promoted to the lieutenant, later promoted to the chief, and had a special election to run for the constable there at Precinct 1. So I've been there, like I said, for 23 years now, serving 3 years, going on 4 as the elected official there at Precinct 1. We do quite a bit, and I can piggyback off of pretty much all of the other constables. We do, a lot of people don't understand, exactly what does a constable do. Well, we kind of step outside of our boundaries quite a bit. Just like the others, we speak at the schools on career days. A lot of things that we've been doing at Precinct 1, we call ourselves one-on-one with Precinct 1, with our James Custody and Peace judges, Valencia Nass and Judge Thomas G. Jones. Once a month, we go out to the senior centers, and we talk to them about safety, and they also offer free wheels for the seniors there. And we talk to them about a lot of things, and we try to make sure that they're aware of what's going on out in the community. As far as we also go out to, we're on the radio station once a month, KH Heaven 97, and that's where we pretty much keep our community informed. So that's a lot of things that we do at Precinct 1. And with the pandemic that's going on, it's been quite an experience with all the constables. So it's we're up against a challenge on a daily basis. I'm sure just along with any other law, and we pretty much team up with the Sheriff Department, DPD, the Marshal's Office, and this is really, I'm excited this year. This is the first time that all of the constables are really working together. So I'm really excited about that and looking forward to many more years with the Constable's Office.
I think let's get down to the questions and let's get to the issues of the day. I think you are the ones that are most close to the community. You're, well, the local police and even the Sheriff's Department, but nobody is as close to the community or out as much in the community as you all are. Please tell us what any interventions have you had during this protest time? How are you handling what the community is talking to you about, or how are you involved in any of the things that are going on with this time? Whoever wants to go ahead and start.
Well, what I've done, I'll refocus on what I did is in this time of COVID, I've been engaging the community in educating them about their eviction rights. But furthermore, I try to provide and make our community a little bit safer. And what I've done was I've reached out to some of our legislative representatives, state reps, and presented ideas that can help make our community safer. And I'll tell you one of the ones that I'm proud of that may get presented in the next legislative session is that on the pamphlets that is passed out to victims of domestic violence or suspect of domestic violence, a lot of people that are victims of domestic violence don't know that in the property code, they can break their lease. If they're a victim of domestic violence or have filed for a protective order, I want that information included and state mandated in the pamphlets that our local PDs and local patrol units, sheriff's departments, when they respond to calls. Another thing that people don't know about that occurs in a lot of domestic violence situations, sometimes these people leave their house and they leave all their belongings, personal items, records, medical records. Well, there's a remedy for that too, and I want that included in the pamphlet. It's called a writ of retrieval. And what a writ of retrieval is, you go to your local JP court, you present an inventory list of what things you have left there. And if they sign off on it, the constable's officer go out there with that person, keeping the peace while they retrieve their items and they safely remove their items and they can go live in peace somewhere else.
What involvement has your offices had with the protests, if any?
We really haven't. I think the city of Dallas has for their reasons, they never have reached out to us and asking for our assistance in there. We just, Sheriff, we just been staying busy. We did remain open during COVID. We still had a lot of protective orders. Let me tell you something. That's what went up big time during COVID, domestic violence issues. So we had a plethora of protective orders that we were nonstop receiving. We receive orders where we have to go pick up kids that are being abused because during this isolation process, CPS was getting more involved. So our office stayed engaged, providing that service of picking up children that were being abused or actually being kept in a house that had people that are infected with hepatitis and so forth. And we removed those children safely from the household and turned them over to CPS and so forth.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We have been involved in a couple of the peaceful protests, the peaceful march. Myself, Judge Jones, and Judge Nash. Actually, a couple of days ago, we were in Lancaster's peaceful march. And I pretty much think that the community wants to see us there and not just out there to protect, but my motto is behind the uniform, I'm just like you. So I have actually been out there with the community. I've been on a couple of marches myself, and they just want to know that, okay, and I'm letting them know I understand. I've been there, done that, can write a book about it. So I see what you're going through. And that's pretty much what they want to see. So, and I know I've seen Constable Gibson also in a couple of marches in Mesquite. So I know we get out there as well with the community.
Now, let me ask, one of the things that has been brought up several times, law enforcement and Black Lives Matter. Several people have said you can't do both. And I'm looking at all the constables and former constable and former sheriff, we're all minorities. And the majority of us have been in law enforcement for over 20 years. And, I was in for 42, but most of us have been in law enforcement for over 20 years. So we've been in the trenches. We know the stuff that is going on. How do you respond when public talks to you about law enforcement or Black Lives Matter? I'd like to hear your opinion on that, whoever wants to go.
I'll respond to that, Sheriff.
Thank you.
This is how I look at it. We're all minorities, like you said, we're all minorities. I've been a Black man my whole life. So just because I'm a peace officer doesn't change the fact that I'm a Black man. So Black Lives Matter, for as far as I'm concerned, I gotta go with Black Lives Matter, but just because I say Black Lives Matter does not mean that every other life doesn't matter, or being a peace officer, that doesn't matter. So my point is, I can represent a Black man and I can represent being a peace officer at the same time. Because I don't stop being a Black man because I put this uniform on. When I put this uniform on, I'm still a Black man and I'm still out there doing my job. I can still do my job as a Black man. So when people say Black Lives Matter and they say, oh, you can't say, well, Blue Lives Matter and you say Black Lives Matter. Yes, we can. Because just because I'm Black doesn't mean I can't represent this uniform. And I represent it well being a Black man. So it doesn't mean because I'm Black, I got to say, well, I got to go against the police because I'm Black. Am I right, Constable Gibson? Just because we're Black, Roy, just because we're Black doesn't mean that we have to decide with everything the police says. Because sometimes the police is wrong. Sometimes police actually do things wrong. Sometimes Black people do things wrong. But as long as you're on, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're doing what's right, that's what's best. Don't make a difference you Black, white, Hispanic, or not. As long as you're doing what's right, then that's best. That's where I look at it. That's where I look at it. You guys may have a different opinion of it, but I look at it as long as I look at, I'm a Black man, but I'm a Black man and I put this uniform on and I represent this uniform the best as I can. As long as I'm doing that, I could care less about what someone else has to say.
Okay.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we've been given a platform. And because we've been given a platform as minorities, whether you're Black or you're brown, you have to take advantage of that platform. And that's what myself and a lot of other leaders in the community you have seen do. Constable Gulley, Chief Hall, We saw in Houston, the sheriff down there, he took a stand as well. Because at the end of the day, we born who we are. And
Exactly.
so just as well as I've been out speaking, you know, I was a black man before I put this uniform on or before I served in the military. I come from East Texas. I come from East Texas where I was a subject of racism. I saw it firsthand down there. So the town I grew up in is still a segregated town. We might be integrated in our schools, but we still segregated in the town. The communities are not integrated at all. And here we are in 2020. And so with that being said, going off of what Constable Wright said there, um, we have to stand for what's right. And we can't stand back on the shadows shores and not show that, you know, we are against this. And as well as I stand with a lot of other leaders, law enforcement leaders, minorities that have stood out and said that we're not going to condemn this. And that's why we're here, and that's why we're letting our voice be heard today, as well as the previous days, and being out in the community, because we have to. And at first, when we put this uniform on, we put this uniform on to say that we are peace officers. And so I think we have a way to integrate ourselves into these protests to show that we're not going to stand for this systematic injustice that's going on in America.
Exactly.
Here. I mean, we saw the incident today, right down in Glen Heights,
Right in my area.
where a guy went to go get service done to his vehicle and got called the N-word. It's not going to be tolerated, and I think that's what we're seeing across America. But we also not going to stand for those that want to come out and interrupt these peaceful protests and start, you know, damaging the cities and all this looting and the lawlessness that we're seeing as well. We're not going to stand for that neither. And so if you want to come out and you want to, you know, march, and, you know, I marched with Chief Godfrey. We did a 3-mile march in Raleigh. It was hot, but we got out there and we did it. Chief Cato and Mesquite, we marched with the protesters. And so that's what, like Constable Gulley said, that's what they want to see. They want to see us as minorities take a stand with them, because we are department heads, we are leaders. And so if you're a minority and you're not out there, you know, I don't know how that resonates with the community. And so we gotta, you know, be leaders in our departments, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to our community. So
Do you feel?
Constable,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Sheriff.
Didn't
Go
mean
ahead,
to
Sheriff.
interrupt you, Constable. Sorry about that. Do you feel when you're out there that the protesters are a little bit more comfortable with you as a person of color in uniform, or do they are not comfortable with you at all?
Oh, they are extremely excited and acceptable to us being out there. And so to answer your question, yes, they are comfortable. They want us there. They want us there. And I think by us being there, at least at the protests I've been at, it's been able to keep the peace. It's been able to keep the peace because, like Constable Gulley said, we resonate with them. You know, we are Black, or if you're Hispanic, man or woman, you understand the struggle. You understand where they're coming from, because even with us being in these positions, it's people that don't want to see us here.
Exactly.
But we here, and we was voted in by the majority of the community. And so, like I said, we have to take advantage of these platforms and let our voices be heard. So.
Yeah, I feel like they're proud. They're proud to see us down there. Also, Sheriff, they're proud when they see us, because a lot of people in our precinct know us, but a lot of people outside of our precinct don't know us. So when I was downtown, when all the protests were going on, when I was downtown those 4 or 5 days, we were down there marching with them. They were happy to see us. They were happy to say, "Oh, we didn't realize we had you as a constable. We didn't realize that you were in this position." So they feel more comfortable when they see us out there. Like Constable Gibson was saying, they're excited to see us and they feel comfortable. And then when they start talking to us, and they tell you they're proud to see you, like, I'm proud to see you in this position, and then that makes you say, okay, well, when someone starts talking to you and telling you they're proud, then you even say, well, I know I have to even do more. I can't sit back. So it makes you want to come back again and say, I'm gonna go march again. Matter of fact, tomorrow I'm gonna make sure I wear this uniform again so they can see me again when I come out and march again. So like they're saying, it's a great deal. And it makes me feel happy when someone says they're proud to see me in this uniform.
Because you are there, do you feel that you keep more of the peace that may otherwise not have been as peaceful, or do you do they react to you? But I'm asking you. I think I know the answer, but
Yeah,
I'm asking you all because you are there.
It's like Gibson was saying.
Spirits are calmed a little more when they see you.
Sheriff, I think what's equally important, it's they're not only glad to see us out there, but they want to know if we understand, and we actually understand. Are we just out there just as law enforcement? But do we actually understand and know what they're talking about, know what they're doing? And to me, Black Lives Matters, it's a serious crowd of people asking, seeking, and demanding recognition and awareness of the systematic racism that has been, I mean, practically ingrained in our society for decades. I mean, a serious example of this is, you know, people have been pulled over for driving while Black, driving while Mexican. It's been a malignant stain on law enforcement for decades. It's manifested and contributed to the current environment that we're in right now. And so the community wants to know that local law enforcement understands this problem and is willing to go out there and do something about it.
Not only do they want to be heard, but do you think that as a law enforcement people, you can say that, yes, you are correct. Yes, we've seen that. Yes, we've been in your shoes. Can you elaborate on some of that?
Well, we comprehend. I comprehend, you know, as a young youth, growing up as a teenager, you know, I was 16, 17, 18, I'll never forget it. I'd be driving my car around East Dallas where I grew up, and I'd have, it happened three different times where I had a City of Dallas squad car roll up next to me and shine their spotlight on my steering column just to see if it was broken, and maybe I was driving a stolen car because I was in a nice car. So I've been there. I think many of us have had negative contact with law enforcement. What I mean by negative contact, unfair negative contact.
Okay, let's, unless somebody else has anything more to say about that, let's shift on to another subject. COVID-19, our current issue, one of our two major issues. How are you dealing with that, not only in your department? Has there been individuals in your department who are ill, but in your own communities, in the area you're responsible for? And if you're working with Parkland, or are you working with Parkland, do they have community areas do they have community stations in your areas, and are you working with them at all? Not all of you at the same time.
Well, I mean, at our office, we did have one worker that became, and because of the COVID guidelines that Dallas County implemented, I immediately sent that employee home. And it was the best thing we did, because a few days later, found out that their spouse was infected with COVID, and eventually they were tested for COVID, but you know, we made them self-quarantine, stay at home. But I mean, we do strictly adhere to the guidelines of COVID. We have officers that assist in our building alongside with Dallas County Security that ensure and make sure people are wearing their masks, social distancing's taking place. Our officers, you know, people don't realize when we're doing our job, we probably have the most citizen contacts. All my colleagues can strongly agree with that. Doing these evictions, and we try to keep our officers safe and still abide by the COVID guidelines.
Are your officers wearing masks? Are they, and if so, how do they deal with the public? in that situation?
They are wearing masks when they go do attempts for service at households. They do keep social distancing. You know, it is a deal where now when we do the evictions, we'll have them put the suits, the little plastic body suits on. And then when we're serving process, you know, we ask them that you're the individual name, the person, where they wear gloves, and they just leave it on the doorstep, which is good legal service. People don't realize that the paper doesn't have to necessarily touch the individual or be placed in their hand. As long as we know and they identify and self-identify as a person needs to receive that process, we just lay it on the doorstep and let them pick it up.
Thank you. Gulley, are your officers wearing masks, and how do they deal with the public when they do that? Did she leave us?
I think she has left us.
Okay, well then let's go back to Constable Gibson.
Yes, ma'am. Sheriff, our officers are required daily as they go out into the community to wear masks, and when they go to a home, we are wearing gloves. Like I stated earlier, as well as all the other constables, we deal with a lot of mental illness, and so when you're dealing with mental illness, just Monday, we was on a mental illness, and he was also high on methamphetamines, and so he was spitting and things like that. So the of the bodily fluids, you know, we are protecting ourselves and making sure that we stay safe and I'm not carrying anything back home to our families. You know, it's just the time that we live in, and we don't see no letting up on this COVID anytime soon. So we most definitely are making sure that we stay wearing our protective gear, equipment, and everything.
Constable Wright?
Yeah, I believe everyone's it's not going to be indifferent. We all have gloves, masks, coming in and out of the office when we go out. So I think that's something, you know, even the buildings, we have the all the signs all over the building about social distancing. When you come in, everyone has the tax office, and you have the different offices in your building. So you have the people up to the building making sure that people are staying 6 feet apart, and when you go inside the tax office, it's only maybe 4 or 5 people in at a time. So I think all of us are doing that with gloves and all of our buildings, trying to make sure we keep all our officers safe as much as we can.
I have 2 questions left. One, do you think this is going to be more of the new normal? And 2, do you have people object when you're asking them for social distancing and to wear a mask? Do people get upset and object and would rather not?
I think it's possible that some, just luckily for us, we hadn't had any objection. They're actually extremely happy when we ask them, hey, you know, make sure you stay 6 feet apart, make sure you have your mask on. They're like, oh, hey, man, I'm sorry I left my mask in the car. Do you have one for us? Or thanks for telling that person they can get one. So maybe, you know, some of the other constables have experienced something different than I have, but for the most part, you know, everybody's happy. Everybody's extremely happy that these measures have been in place. And the officers are extremely happy too. Officers are happy that they have gloves and sanitizer and masks that they can put on and use every day. So I hadn't ran into any problems at all.
I would like to add, I'm reading the questions here in the chat, and it was stated about us having face shields. We do have protective suits, not gowns, but protective suits. We do have face shields as well. So in the Dallas County have provided them. If the situation rise that calls for that type of equipment, then we do have and require officers to protect themselves to the fullest capacity. So I do want to answer that question because I just saw it in the chat, Mr. West. So yes, they do have.
Do you provide the face mask if they're not wearing one of those dailies?
We do. We have the mask. We have a supply of masks. As we run low, we request for more supplies from Dallas County. And so Dallas County has a surplus of supplies, that they distribute out to various departments in the county.
And the questions that we're seeing, I'm kind of interested in one of them, and I want to ask if each precinct is a little different. What is the crime that you end up handling the most? And is it different for different precincts, or is it basically the same all around the county? What is the crime that you end up handling the most?
Sheriff, the one that
Well, I think,
oh, go ahead, Constable Fields.
okay. You know, that's an interesting question. You know, people have a misconception of the constable's office, and they don't realize that we have the same jurisdiction as the sheriff's department. Our daily responsibility is different. Sheriff's department answering calls for service, constable's office dealing more on the civil aspect of law enforcement. But we have the power to arrest, and as we go to these homes to serve citations and we doing evictions, there are times that we run across counterfeit money, collection of drugs. Sometimes we have assaults that happen. People don't want to leave their home. They might try to sick the dog on you. So there are various things that we encounter from a criminal aspect, and it turns from civil to criminal. And we have to take people into custody and put those charges on them. Our officers are also able to make traffic stops. People see constable cars, they just go flying by them. Now we don't, enforce traffic as much because of our normal operation. But if we see a major violation occurring, we will make that stop for the protection of the community. And so I do want to put that out there that constables are full-fledged peace officers certified through the state of Texas.
I will add to that because I've been working quite a bit with Chief Hall and having several meetings with the sheriff and the troopers as well. Right now, I wouldn't just say my precinct, but as far as Dallas County, period, the high crime rate is pretty much ag assault, family violence. I'm sure possibly this pandemic has a lot to do with the family violence, but that is definitely the #1 crime right about now.
Okay. The other two constables, is there something different, or there's something, the crime that you end up handling the most?
I think Gibson summed it up the most. It just depends on, certain things could happen each day. It just depends on what you're doing. You're serving a warrant. You can see something happens. You have the right to make that arrest or you pull a call over. It just depends. Just like when I was working at the sheriff department, we were serving warrants. I was a warrant officer, but we got into different things each and every day. So it just depends on what happens when you're out. I don't think it's one thing that happens more than the other. It's just what happens when you're out, what you see when you're out, and you're a peace officer, you're a certified peace officer, and you get to make an arrest when you have to. So I don't think it's one thing more than the other. It's just things that happen each day.
Okay. Is that the same thing for you, Constable Orozco?
Yes, I would say the one offense that we find is when they're interfering with the duties of a peace officer. Because
Interfering with what?
Interfering with the duties of a peace officer, because we're out there enforcing court orders. So, like my colleagues have touched upon, it's a high emotional incident when you're out there taking a child from a parent and may interfere and attack the officer. Then, we certainly may have to put hands on them and make the on-view arrest and follow the case. And just like Constable Gibson said, we do come across many offenses during evictions, drugs, weapons, and so forth. So we are Texas peace officers, like he said. But what I like to tell people, what separates us from maybe a city Dallas officer is that we can enforce both criminal and civil law. And just to read what Constable Gibson said, we can make on-view arrests, file the case, and so forth.
Now, to sum up, we've got just a few more minutes left. And to sum up, tell us the size of your office and the makeup from officers to administrative staff to whatever else you have. Tell us about your office.
Well, I will say this, I'm proud of our office. It's reflective of the community that I represent. My chief deputy, he's Caucasian. My assistant chief, African American. My sergeant is Hispanic. We also, our deputies, we've got myself and 15 sworn deputies. We have a clerical staff of 5 clerks, but our deputies are diverse. We have Latino, African American. We actually have a female deputy that is half African American and half Korean, and she speaks Korean fluently. And we do have a Korean community in my precinct, and she's out there servicing them and able to interact with them and so forth.
Okay. Gibson?
Yeah, Sheriff.
What's the size of your office? How many
Same
offices?
as Constable Roscoe, so myself and 15 deputies sworn, including the 2 chiefs, as well as 5 clerical. Yeah, so it's about 20 as a whole.
Okay. Okay, right?
Sheriff, we have about 19 deputies, have about 4 clerks, and so we have about close to 25 people in all in our office. And of course, we have, just like Roscoe, we have a diverse group: Hispanic, Black, white. So it's mixed, but it's everybody gets along well. That's the most important thing, to be able to lead them and make sure everyone gets along well, and we're doing great. Yeah, we're doing good.
I don't want to leave without touching on some of the questions that are being asked. But I know you all attend schools. Somebody has said here that they wish you would come out and speak to their schools. And I've seen you all at different schools and activities. So I know that you have been out there. But maybe we should just say, if you need to get in touch with them to come to your school or to make a presentation at your school, if you live in Dallas County, one of them represents your area. And there's also a question that was brought about do you think some of your duties can be assigned to the Right Care or other agencies so you can concentrate on specific law enforcement issues? Does anybody want to tackle that one?
Well, I will say that, as a matter of fact, Saturday, I'm going to speak at a teen summit at a church. And one of their main questions was, how do we interact as a teenager when we come into encounter with the police officer? That's the number one question with our teens. And I talk to my nieces and nephews daily about that. At any given moment, it can go in the wrong way. So it's really good that we are out and we're able to talk with the students and educate not only our students, but I mean the adults, as to how you should interact, how you should react when you are being pulled over or you're approached by an officer. Because really, I'll be honest with you, things have really changed nowadays. They have really changed. So it's important to educate everyone and to talk with them and, and let them know things that you should and you shouldn't do.
Let me, I've been quiet for the last 20 minutes. I'm gonna chime in with that as well. So this coming Sunday, I've been invited to take part of another discussion panel at the Golden Gate Missionary Baptist Church. Vincent T. Parker is the pastor. But I say that to kind of piggyback on the whether you go to a school or participate in a speaking engagement someplace. All of us, of course, me being a former, but all of us are available. Again, this is, if you count Sunday, that's probably my 4th or 5th panel discussion that I've taken a part of since not since COVID-19, but since the George Floyd incident. up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And basically kind of going back to what we already discussed, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. You know, the question always comes up, how can you do both? Well, Roy, you've done this, you've done that. And, you know, and you heard the others say, and I used to use this as my pitch when I love high school. You know, it's neat to visit the little kids, but it's much more rewarding for me to visit the high schools. And I tell them, I say, you know, I've been a cop. Well, I can say that now. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years, but I've been black all my life. So it's neat to be able to bring that aspect to it. But because of my training background and because of the background I have in ethics and cultural diversity, I'm able to tie all of that into one thing, put a nice little bow on it, and hopefully give someone an opportunity to see things that maybe they hadn't considered, see it in a way that they've never considered it. So again, it's not hard. I mean, we have been, past tense for me, but we have been your elected officials. It's not hard to get us. You just have to get in contact with us. We're totally approachable. You know, it's not like we're the folks in DC or even the folks in Austin. I mean, we have been elected by people in the communities that we live in. And so I'm still very engaged with the Precinct 4 community. I live in Grand Prairie, and so I'm very engaged and involved with, just this past Friday, we had a Unity in the Community event at the Grand Prairie PD headquarters, and it was a beautiful event. And so we're totally approachable. Don't feel like you can't approach us. I mean, if you want to approach me and have me come out and speak, I will. I'm on all the social media platforms. And so it's Roy Williams Jr. I'm not hard to find.
Okay, before we finish up, and we're almost done, I'd like to make sure and give a big howdy and welcome Commissioner Elba Garcia and State Representative Carl Sherman. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the last question that I want to ask before I turn it over to Carol is, there's been a lot of talk about defunding law enforcement. Now, I know you deal with mental illness and some of the issues in mental illness. First of all, are the officers that go deal with that specialized? And if not, is that a necessity? Or do they have some kind of special training to deal with the mentally ill?
Actually, there is a training for you know, sometimes others may not think that it is a necessity, but I like to give my officers as much training as possible, because when you're dealing with a mental illness patient, it's not like dealing with someone who has a traffic ticket, or when the word mental illness. I mean, so that tells you right there, it's totally different and it can jump from being calm to the next 5 minutes they're having an attack, or something is going on, haven't taken their meds, or something, anything can happen. So to me, I would prefer that my officers are trained, and there is a mental illness training class and it's a 40-hour course. Most of well, I have a few officers that have been trained in that, and I'm just more comfortable with them dealing with when you out dealing with a mental illness patient. I'm not sure what the other precincts are, and that, you know, there may be times when I don't have those particular officers that are in the office at that particular time. So what do? You turn your back on it? No, you still have to deal with it, but you have to be cautious with it. And I'm not sure what the other officers or what the other constables, you know, can chime in on that and say, because all of us have dealt with it more so now than any time.
Should there be a special task force or a special group that deals with that?
There used to be one.
I'm sorry?
There used to be one. Okay. And I think it should be brought back. It was a mental health illness warrant unit that was spearheaded by one of the other precincts, constable's office. And they actually not only service Dallas County, but they service local municipal PDs, and they were specially trained. But unfortunately, there was like only 2 or 3 of them that were on this task force. I think it needs to be totally expanded. I think a task force should be created that should include all 5 precincts together, and maybe bring 3 to 4 deputies from each precinct, because it's a serious issue. And it makes me feel good that our mental health illness warrants filings have actually increased in precinct 5 because myself, Judge Hassler, Judge Martinez, we go out into the community, engage them, and talk about the service that's out there for it. So we've actually seen a spike of mental health illness warrants being filed at Judge Hassler and Judge Martinez's court because we're out there consistently engaged in the community. Anytime I'm out in the community, I love to talk about mental health illness warrants because no one in the community really knows about it.
Okay, as much as I'd like to talk about de-escalation and a couple of other things, we need to leave the last few minutes to Carol because she needed some time for the end. But at some point we need to discuss de-escalation, officer accountability, and all of those things. But we're going to give the last 2 minutes to Carol. Carol?
Thank you, Sheriff. It sounds like we may need to schedule another town hall so we can talk about more of these subjects. And I truly appreciate Roy Williams participating, as well as Constables Wright, Gibson, Gulley, and Orozco. This has been very educational. I also want to thank our sponsors because they helped make this program possible. On your screen, you'll see our series sponsors, the Tillotson Law Firm and Carol and Dan Donovan. Our meeting sponsors, Terry Barker, Dr. Catalina Garcia, and Hamilton Wingo, LLP. And our friendship sponsors, the Honorable Marcy Helfand and Robert Book and Scott Perez, LLP. We appreciate their support. And last but not least, we appreciate Sheriff Lupe Valdez. She has done an incredible job in being the MC and moderator for this program. There's a lot of questions, and I know we didn't get to all of them, and we shall at another town hall. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Everybody take
Bye.
care.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a good evening.
Thank you all for participating.